here's what I'll say. I think basically everything Trump is doing foreign policy-wise is diminishing the U.S.'s soft power. So tariffing our allies rather than trying to cooperate with them against China. Most of the things that him and Elon are doing are gearing up to are expanding the authority of the executive branch and possibly gearing up to eventually just ignore a court order.
Well, the only reason why it didn't work in Afghanistan is because we left.
It was working while we
It
were
was
there.
not going to work in Afghanistan. Anybody who says that's fucking
Think if we
No, it was.
stayed there longer,
no,
it would
there
work.
was,
Like if,
there was cultural resistance.
If we had stayed like 100 years, we would have probably got it.
If 2-3 generations.
100 years.
Sure.
We're
I mean,
still
that's
in
all it
Germany
takes.
and Japan.
Let me give the fucking argument that's been happening since before I was even fucking born.
The treasury, yeah, you're right. George Soros has never done that.
which is a
hundreds of millions of dollars into elections every cycle and elects people more on a local level. He does a different tactic where he elects like state DAs, state attorneys, DAs, mayors of different cities.
If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description.
Anyway, let's move on here. Let's start this off here. We got us three here. We'll start with you, Tyler. Welcome to Give Me a Break, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? We're going to be talking about the new American empire that it seems like Trump is starting. Is it wonderful? Is it terrible? What's going on here? I might give a little more opinions than usual, not moderate since there's only four of us. But go ahead, Tyler.
All right. Well, it looks like some good stuff. Some good stuff has come from the Mexico and the Canada. Canada, it's argued that actually most of that stuff was coming anyways. There was a couple new things I don't think that were announced, but for the most part, it was already on the way. Same with Mexico, but maybe they kicked it up a little bit. I didn't see anything about troops. In reality, the Republicans criticized the 10,000 troops that went to the border when it was Biden doing it, saying they were ineffective, and they really did nothing. So the 10,000 troops are mostly symbolic, and so Trump can say he got a win. Where I think he actually got his biggest win so far was Panama. That Silk Belt and Road Initiative, the Silk Road, whatever, that's actually something that's kind of a big deal. Working against BRICS is kind of a big deal. To get them to break away from that, hopefully that starts bucking the trend in Latin America, these countries that are working with them. Panama already conceded.
Thanks for the sub, Isaac. The resub. I appreciate it.
So it looks like they're probably going to keep it and give us a much better deal than we were getting. As far as Gaza goes, I'm still like, I lean as an interventionist toward it, but I've still got some things I want to bring up that are major concerns, but I think that who better to go in and manage the rebuilding process than us? That's what American exceptionalism is, and that's something both parties used to agree with for a long time.
All right. Nonfon.
I didn't even know I was going to be here, so don't expect super high conviction takes. On the, Mexico, Canada, even Colombia whole tariff thing, I'm way more concerned about the actual implementation of tariffs than I am with just them used as a negotiation tool. I don't think the concessions he got out of Colombia or Canada were super significant. The Mexico thing might be a little bit more significant, but we also agreed to enforce on our end preventing guns from going into Mexico, which I think is good, but that's, obviously something we weren't doing before. That's an extra cost on our end. When it comes to Gaza, I think I don't think Trump is actually being serious about full-on annexing it or anything. I think there could be a good way to allow, some not deportation, even transfer sounds like a loaded term. Allow some movement of people from Gaza to the Sinai or even to Jordan. But I think it should be a temporary thing. I think we should be trying to aim for a two-state solution. I think the best way to achieve that, it has to be a unified government between Gaza and the West Bank. I don't think that works if half the population of Gaza is deported, or if Israel is permanently occupying the Gaza Strip in the same way they occupy the West Bank. Maybe it'd be justified for them to keep some corridors. So I don't know a ton about the Panama thing yet, because that just happened, but what I do know is we run a trade surplus with Panama, okay? And from Donald Trump, I know that trade deficits are actually subsidies, and we have Panama subsidizes us $11 billion a year. And actually the Panama Canal only even makes $5 billion a year. So it seems like, according to Trump's logic, we're winning. That's all I gotta say.
Nice. And JC.
Yeah, so
I am for American empire explicitly. The problem is Donald Trump isn't. He doesn't care about America. He doesn't care about liberalism. He doesn't care about democracy, obviously. He cares about himself and what gets him the most likes and like claps in the moment. He doesn't have enough of an ideological dedication to the spreading of liberal democratic principles across the world to actually like give a damn to like plan out any sort of constructive action towards that end. The Gaza proposal is probably the most blatant example in recent times, but the extortion from Canada to have them just agree to follow through on the bill
What's
that
up,
they
Bisky?
already were going to follow
JC is
through on
based.
anyways, that they decided back in
Now
December.
you're about to do a full 360 on being isolationist.
I can
don't
recognize
know.
how from the outside, someone who's severely uninformed about how government functions or about what America is all about or what basic economics are, could look at what Donald Trump does and say, wow, what a great guy for spreading American values and what a great American empire guy. But he is going to flush this country down a toilet if it gets him the most clicks and likes from outspoken American enemies like Vladimir Putin, like Xi Jinping, and like Kim Jong-un, who he has palled up with many times in the past. So he's anti-American, so I don't see how he could be for American empire.
Interesting take. Yeah, and so since it's only four of us, I'll jump in on this. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the new Trumptopia, Magalago, or whatever.
Magaza.
Yeah, Magaza. I mean, there's a whole bunch of good ones, that people have had. What is he trying to say? It's going to be the Riviera of the Middle East. Okay. Here's kind of how I look at it. Like, I don't have a dog in this fight. Listen, all the Jewish people I know, I seem to like, in real life. All the Muslim people I know, they all seem to be nice enough people. I don't really have a dog in the fight, right? However, when I look at like Russia and Ukraine, I personally think, if Israel really wanted to, they could have made this shit a lot worse. Like, they could have, I get maybe there's some people that died that didn't need to die, but if they really had wanted to just wipe Gaza off the map. We've seen what Russia's doing. They're just indiscriminately artillery striking and drone striking cities. So it's pretty clear to me when we compare the two wars that Israel's really played with kitty gloves on in Gaza. And that's kind of hampered them and I think allowed Palestine and Hamas to be more effective than they otherwise would have. That being said, I think at this point in my life, I think it's pretty obvious that the two-state solution is not going to work. There seems to be no will or desire. Every time the Palestinians are offered something, they turn it down, or when they do accept it, they tear up all the plumbing to turn them into bombs. They try to take over the power plants and turn them into weapons, take weapons out of them. I think that those are recent things right here that just happened in the last 10, 15 years. And I mean, even before that, you had the Arafat thing. And then they were like, "Oh, we're your ally. We're gonna be friends. You're peace prize for." And then a year later, they're fighting. So I don't see this ending, and it's almost like I don't want to advocate for. I'm sure someone's going to say I'm advocating for, what is it called? Cultural genocide, where you move all these people out. At this point, though, there's nothing left in Gaza. It's been bombed to hell, right? The people there, it's making more militants. There's a disputed area between Egypt and the country below them that's nobody's claimed. Let's just make that new Gaza, move everybody there, and then we can turn the Gaza area right there into a casino wonderland, and everybody can go out there and call it instead of Atlantic City, it can be the Mediterranean City or some shit. It's gonna be wonderful. Also, they have oil off the coast, and we know how much we like oil, and that's great. I mean, I'm big fans of all those things.
Trump's a bit of a bad communicator, and at first I was also thinking he was actually going to expel all the Gazans as well, but I watched the bargain bin Kayleigh McEnany, the new White House press secretary. She's a little fiery, but she's not Kayleigh at all in my heart. Oh my God. Kayleigh, not Kareem Jean-Pierre, though. Anywho. Sorry, I got a little off task there. Trump doesn't want to spend U.S. money. He wants to be the overseer. They're calling on partners in the nation, in the region, to fund this rebuilding, to rebuild a Palestinian state. So my second concern was actually about isolating Saudi Arabia, because as soon as Trump made this announcement, they came out an hour later and said, there will be no peace deal with Israel if Palestinians don't have a state. So what Trump is saying is everyone that doesn't like the U.S. takeover and rebuilding can go, and we'll open up Jordan and Egypt for you by force, essentially. But everyone that wants to stay, he's going to rebuild it for them to be something that America oversees, kind of an American, maybe not, I don't know, American territory.
Yeah. He definitely says he's going to permanently keep it. And I think that's something, you mentioned Jordan earlier. I want to make this unequivocally clear. Jordan, unless they are like threatened with their state not existing, or like given some massive like olive branch, kudos, pork barrel kind of deal. Well, I guess the Muslims hate pork, but y'all know what I mean. It's an expression. Thus, they're given something along those lines. There is absolutely zero possibility in my mind that they agree to taking any significant number of Palestinians.
We'll see.
I'll tell you what.
5 days.
Listen. Let me give you an example.
They're coming to the White House. The king is coming to the White House.
Sure. Like I said, the caveat being they get something massive in return, because last time they took 4 million Palestinians, what happened? They tried to overthrow the government, tried to assassinate him, and then started a civil war that like only recently ended. Like I don't see King Abdullah being like, yeah, I'm ready for round 2 of that. Like
Egypt has some problems too. It's the same
and
thing.
Egypt's not sturdy at all in their government. But you notice Saudi Arabia doesn't want to take him.
Does anybody else find it kind of weird how the non-interventionist MAGA are suddenly all about like a full-on like U.S. like dictated kind of like restructuring of the Gaza Strip just because Trump decided it? And does anybody find it odd? I mean, does anybody find it pathetic how quickly they trip over themselves to suck on his cock?
I mean, I'm pretty excited because I've been saying that I wanted basically this when we did Iraq. I've been saying we should never
that's another good point. Iraq.
We got stuck with the two people who are both always interventionists.
And so they're just saying what we wanted. It's great that Trump is coming around to my point of view. You know what I'm saying? That's what's really happening.
I thought he always was going to. He's been pretty good with Israel generally.
Yeah, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem. That went over super well for the region.
Yeah, well, what other country...
There definitely wasn't a, border riot.
What other country, though, do we tell them what their capital is? Like,
what other country is... What other country is occupying disputed territory and has their capital in disputed territory? What do you mean?
I don't think there's any dispute, though. What do
you mean there's no dispute over who owns East Jerusalem? Really? There's no dispute over the interpretation of 242? There's no dispute over the legality of Israeli settlements? These aren't disputed things?
I don't think so. I think this is basically refugee camps that were
so then you're just dismissing the validity of the Palestinian Arab perspective completely then.
For the most part, yeah, I've heard it.
I mean, that's fine, but like you acknowledge there's a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm not sure why you would tell Nonfon it's not disputed. It clearly is. What a stupid thing to say.
Legally.
And then admit.
Hold on, let me ask you a question.
That's the stance of our country. Is legally it's not a country.
Well, let me ask this. All right, so let's just start from the little way back here. Not all the way back, because they've been fighting over this land for 6,000 years. But let's just start a little bit. Do we all agree when the British conquered Israel and they had it and it was under control that Britain owned it and it was theirs? Do we all agree at that point?
Are we talking about post World War I, like the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire? I don't know that I would call that Britain conquering Israel.
Yeah, but they owned it.
They were the administrators of the territory. It was a British mandate,
yes.
Too many promises to too many people.
But we do agree that it was British legally was in control. It was theirs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with that. Sure. British mandate for Palestine.
Okay, so after World War II, Britain decides they're going to give it up to appease the Jews, right? We agree at that point they have the right to do whatever they want with that land, right?
Morally or legally?
Not morally. We're talking about legally.
Okay, we're talking about legally. Again, it's fuzzy, but sure. If we're talking about morally, that's kind of the problem with the entire conflict. That's like the point of the entire conflict. So I'm not sure why we should just brush that aside like so completely.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll come to. Don't worry, Papa. We'll get to the moral.
Wait, hold on. When they gave it up, though, it was they introduced the resolution. I'm forgetting all my Israeli-Palestinian history. The resolution 181, though, right? And that was rejected by the Palestinians, and then Israel went to war, and only then did they declare. I guess they declared independence first, and then went to full-scale war with the other Arab countries, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, that was like 46 or 47, right?
Yeah, 47.
Yeah.
47. They declared independence, and then the war happened in 48.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I when you say legal for Israel to do whatever they want with the land, I don't know. I don't know the full.
Yeah,
I don't know.
legally. This is where it gets kind of funky, right? Because the idea of ownership isn't like transcendent from continent to continent. It's a cultural, contextual thing. So there are plenty of like Palestinians.
Is it though?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We can have different ideas of what we think
Blood
ownership
and
should
soil.
mean, and we can have an argument about which idea we think is better. But if you go there and you tell a Gazan like, hey, ownership means that the Jews legally had this land, so sorry, you're SOL. They're not going to give a single flying fuck about what you have to say. Ownership is culturally contextual. So there are plenty of Palestinians who are native to the region that believed that land that they lived on was owned by them.
Based as fuck. This is the most pro-ethno-state thing I've ever heard in my life.
Wait, I'm not arguing in favor of either perspective.
Well, I will say
I'm explaining the Palestinian perspective.
I understand. Listen, I think that this is something that the left doesn't get, is that I think that most conservatives, at least, especially even as interventionists, we understand the cultural context, right? We just don't give a shit because this one group seems to be the instigators consistently. Now, I get why they might want to be the instigators, sure, but it's almost like, it's going to keep happening, right? So, like, either Israel gets to own it, or somebody else needs to go in there and own it, because the last time we gave them the right to decide who's in charge, they picked a terrorist group, and that's not good. It's like, so I don't know.
Gibbs, I agree with everything you just said. Would that surprise you to hear?
No, it wouldn't surprise me to hear.
Yeah. All I was trying to say is when we're talking about whether or not things like who owns the land is disputed, that is obviously true.
Okay,
so trying to pretend like you and I believe, of course, that our idea is the best one. Everybody does. Otherwise, nobody would care to share their ideas.
But
we have the okay, yeah. Of course, Tyler has the best ideas, but everybody else has their own best ideas.
Well,
I don't know that to me the idea of liberalism is being able to come together, present our different ideas, clash them against each other, and then the better one rises on top, or we have to walk away, both defeated, and come back and do it again. I don't think that just because you and I disagree with the Palestinians on what they consider land ownership,
I'm forgetting
that doesn't
all this
necessarily
shit.
mean that they don't have any sort of potentially moral claim to the land. Well, I don't know how. My understanding is that they weren't consulted that much. I don't remember legally to the British mandate.
Just
so let me just ask a quick question, right? And then Nonfon, I'll let you go here.
Nonfon's going crazy at something I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not going crazy at anything you're saying. I'm going crazy digging through my old notes. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll turn right over to you as soon as I finish it.
I don't more neocon things.
Just being a national ethnic group entitles you to.
You're absolutely wrong about
the right to self-determination.
It comes down to this, right? Let's look.
And that entails you of some. God, I have to fucking.
Right. Tyler brought this up, I guess, in the chat. He said, "Oh, well, this would be like them all suddenly launching missiles." I won't even go that far. We all know that the Indian reservations have to follow U.S. laws for the most part, and they're all U.S. citizens, right? There's no question there that the U.S. now owns that land, whether or not other people might have a moral claim to it 200 years ago. I mean, at this point, why wouldn't we have the ancestors of the Aztecs? Or the children of the Aztecs suing Spain and Mexico to get their empires back. I just find this to be a ludicrous argument when you have lost your land via right of conquest, right? If someone's literally holding the gun,
they didn't lose it, but they didn't lose all of their land by right of conquest. Some of it was lost by pen stroke.
No, they lost it all by right of conquest because guess who was their backer? The Ottoman Empire.
Yeah,
but you're treating the Ottoman Empire like an organized nation state. That's not what it was. No, not in the sense of the United States or the modern westernized. No, are you serious?
What happened was they marched through Gaza to attack Egypt after the war, and they removed Egypt's leadership from Gaza along the way. The people they let stay, the people were still loyal to the government that they removed. And then they took control of the area, kept it occupied for 20, 30 years, I'm pretty sure. So that's we're getting a little off there. But they went in there and they removed the government that was there. So
let's go to Nonfon here, because I know he was jumping.
No, well, I mean, I was just trying to dig through my old notes. So my understanding is that I honestly forget at this point. If you have if a group of nationals has some group of characteristics, they are entitled to some right of self-determination. And then, even though Palestine has never had a state, Israel can still be classified as occupying that territory, and there are certain acts within an occupation that can be illegal. I'm on the belief that the occupation itself is lawful, and it was lawfully created in self-defense in the '67 war, and 242 does not require them to withdraw from all the territory they occupied. But I still think it's obviously true that Jerusalem is more disputed territory than just about any other nation's capital at the very least. And I also think it's I don't even know how disputed it is that some of the settlements that Israel has in East Jerusalem, Jesus, are illegal. I don't even know.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually something I did want to bring up. The West Bank settlements, I think, are way more egregious than a military occupation of Gaza. Has Orange Daddy said anything about that?
Oh well, the expected outcome is Israel annexes the West Bank.
I mean, yeah, but so I will say, you know what's really funny? Watching all of the lefties on Twitter, not cope over didn't Hassan Piker say something about Kamala Harris?
He couldn't possibly know who was going to be worse for the Palestinians.
Watching all of the liberals quote tweet the tweets from last November and last October and go oh yeah, very big, very just basically the same, right guys? So I don't know. We can talk endlessly about who has a right to what territory in this conflict and who has a moral right to do which action, which is one of the things that I hated when I was learning about this several months ago, which is one of the things that I hated when every debate panel turned into this several months ago, is that there is no right answer, there isn't a wrong answer, there is the subjective side that you pick based on your own values, you project part of yourself onto the conflict, and the other side is by definition going to be immoral enough for you to not consider their justification. And that's what's really frustrating about the conflict about IP for me, and that's why the idea of Trump being the one to solve it is so fucking retarded.
I don't think it's immoral. I think they have a pretty good argument, pretty good claim in a certain way. I just don't think it fits the legal criteria, unfortunately, and I feel bad for them. I don't know. I don't hate them for it.
Well, okay, let's just pick a different group. Right? Why? Okay, so why does nobody have this opinion that you're putting forth, JC, when it comes to the Kurds? So,
with regards to their right to a state.
Yeah, because there's never had a state. They have a region, which is the north, which is southern Turkey, northern Syria, northern Iraq, and then part of Iran. Right? That is the region. That would be Kurdistan if they ever decided to make it. Right? And they tried, and they've just repeatedly been shut down by everybody in the region. All of them. Nobody wants it. Now, nobody's having the outrage for them, even though they were the ones primarily having their people raped by ISIS. They were the ones who had being committed genocide against by Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. They have all the same characteristics.
I think the hot take here. I think that they deserve more of a state than the Gazans.
I agree with that state because they backed us in every war in the region. Right, okay, and I agree with you. So here's the thing: if we're not going to give the Kurds,
you're right. Well, you're right. You raise a good point.
Well, I do think I think you can actually make the argument that there would be cases where Kurds could express a right to self-determination through violence, especially if they're being aggressed upon. But with Kurdistan, it's kind of hard to form because all that territory is already a state. Palestine is kind of a stateless nation. Gaza is arguably occupied. Well, post October 7th is arguably occupied, and the West Bank is occupied for the most part. These are different.
Well, no, but if we're talking about moral justification for a nation state, or deservedness of a nation state between the two, I think that arguably the Kurds have a better case for it because at the very least they've, can't say they've been peaceful actors in the region, but they've certainly less so than the Gazans.
Right, and they've also maintained an autonomous region in Iraq for decades, right? So they already have an area they can start with, right? And then it's borders right with Syria, where they've controlled that.
we're not just going to strip, like, this is kind of like, cause then you're giving like credit to the lefty argument, right, of dissolving the borders of Israel. Like, we're not just going to start cutting pieces out of existing nation states to
Well,
give them to people.
Well, that happens all the time. But first,
I did see it floated when Bashar al-Assad pitched his shit and left. They were like, "Hey, give the Kurds some of Syria." Like, whatever.
Yeah, I would like that. I think that'd be good. But Turkey's
how come
never
Trump
gonna fly
doesn't give the Kurds Gaza?
Turkey? Oh well, how does
Gaza.
it give Trump give the what the
Yeah.
Kurds Gaza?
We should give the Kurds Gaza. That's the real
That would
solution.
be that would be
solved it.
hilarious.
The ultimate position.
I'm gonna go in there and send this. I'm gonna go send that to my senator now. You know.
Oh, wait, so, like,
Yeah, call your senators, call your representatives.
I'm gonna be like, Cruz, have I got an idea for you?
so I get there's no really good reason, but we're essentially saying, and I know it's not going to be 1-to-1, but make Gaza Puerto Rico. Like, I don't understand what's so bad about that, besides the potential of violence to our military from, Muhammad Jihad.
I'll give it a hot take. This is gonna be really a hot take. I think that. All right. I think at this point,
I'm sorry. You're right.
listen, just get ready for it because it's going to be wild. All right. I think at this point, we know that Israel and Palestine is not going to get along. We know that it's very unlikely that any of the surrounding Arab states want to take these people willingly. Right? So, what do? I'm for this because sometimes, and there's a reason why, like, say, the Comanche in the United States and the Aztecs suffered quite a bit more than, say, the Apaches, who basically turned into the Texas Rangers, right? Because guess what? If one group's willing to work with people and the other group is willing to, like, blow everybody up in order not to get it done, then I guess maybe it would be better long term, because in 100 years, are people still going to be arguing about this if we just move everybody out and just, all right, now it's it's its own thing. And I know that's not the happy answer. And I'm not saying kill anybody, but I'm saying maybe we force one of these other countries to take them, turn this into a different area, and then now it's just not theirs anymore. And if you're not there to fight over it, I mean, Israel doesn't have to worry about policing, like, what's something that's basically inside their own borders. I mean, I know people aren't going to like that take, but maybe it's good for the long term.
But much like most of Trump's foreign policy, the end goals are somewhat nebulous. And the
also, I think that
completely unrealistic.
Depending on how it's done, I really fucking hate the word ethnic cleansing because it's a totally meaningless term to me. But that could be like an ethnic cleansing thing.
Right, it could be, right? Like,
what, translocating a populace out of their current, like...
people argue
an
that
entire... the land that they have, like, a connection to.
Cleanliness is next to godliness, okay? I don't want to hear about no ethnic cleansing.
I don't know about that, but, okay, but really, like, I get that argument that it's like it is like cleansing-esque, but it's kind of like, it's happened in history. We can look at, like, these are kind of bad things. You can look at the Native American reservations, right? At least they still exist in some capacity instead of being like genocided.
No. You're not seriously going to say something like
Shades of gray, Papa. Shades of gray.
This is not shades of gray. This is the
what's
United
better for
States
the long
government
term?
giving them consolation prizes for stealing what was, at the time, owned by them. Got here, not legally. Sorry, don't want to trigger Tyler, but pretty sure they were already here when we got here.
Tyler, also, in that thing, share the chat.
Also, I can't see the chat for this for some fucking reason.
Yeah, you were supposed to set up your Twitch.
Yeah, I work 10-hour days.
Yeah, it happens. Go into the shared chat thing, and it's gonna be underneath
What
it
am
on
I
that little
supposed
thing.
to do?
Not you. This is to Tyler here, and then click. Non-Tyler, you would do it too. We're trying to. Oh, I guess you.
Yeah.
Don't.
Share.
So yeah,
well, I'm in
Tyler,
it.
you gotta go in there and click the share. You gotta click the shared chat button, Tyler, and it'll share all our chats together. It's on the
Is this
right-hand
on
side.
Twitch? Are you guys streaming together?
Yeah, we're doing the streaming.
Yeah.
Thing.
How the fuck do I do that?
Friends.
You go to I guess either any of my.
I'll go to you, Gibbs.
Yeah, we can invite you. Is your thing the same
Oh my
thing?
god, it's me!
How do you spell your thing? The big JC? It's all one word?
Here, I'm gonna print screen. I'm just gonna drop this in. It's, this, I'm gonna drop it in a DM. Just because that's what I already have up.
Now we'll make the front page, boys.
Oh, turn off your microphone in the in that room there.
In the room we're in right now.
No, in the Twitch thing. What DM did you post it in?
Oh my god.
In the 7:30 p.m. thing.
While he's setting that up, I was kind of looking into Trump's actions on China because he was saying that like Trump was kind of being friendly with China. Because I was mentioning the Silk Belt Road Initiative with Latin America earlier. Apparently, Trump also slapped a new tariff on China.
Well,
So,
a new one, or the ones that he was imposing when the Canada?
That one.
Because I know he did the 25% in Canada, Mexico, and 10% in China at the same time, and only the 10% on China one like actually went through.
Yeah. He didn't say what he was asking from them. That one, I think, was the...
So, okay, back to what we were talking about. Do you think that if we moved the Palestinians to, like, that little region that's unclaimed south of Egypt and bordering whatever that other country is, I can't think of the other country's name. Like, say we just hypothetically put them there, gave them that, this is a new country, it's yours now. Do you think that would solve problems in that region? Because I would solve...
Better question, why do you think it would?
I will tell you why, because, one... It's really easy to launch missiles into like your place whenever you're in an area that's smaller than the King Ranch, and it's you're basically launching it over across your neighbor's house. Like I could probably make bottle rockets to launch at my neighbor's house. You know what I'm saying? It's like 300 feet away in some of these areas. Like I feel like that'll eliminate that. Two, it's going to take away a lot of the. I mean, yeah, people will be mad about it at first, but I think after a while, people tend to forget about shit, or just it doesn't matter to them anymore.
Why do you think it is good for? Let me be more explicit. As much as we may dislike the term, why do you think it's good for the United States to aid in ethnic cleansing as part of our foreign policy?
I mean, okay, would it save? Do you think it'd save more lives than leaving them to like perpetually go to war with each other?
Why? It's not about how many lives it saves.
I don't know if you could.
I don't know if you can quantify the damage of an ethnic cleansing to lives lost in a war.
Yeah, I don't I was going to say, I don't know. It's hard to quantify the damage of like arguably getting rid of like an entire culture, right? Yeah, deporting these people from land that they've lived on for years by now, and moving them to like Egypt and Jordan.
But for any other refugee situation, that's the goal, is to eventually find them somewhere else where they can permanently live.
Well, I think there's a way that you could not ethically cleanse them, but a way that you could allow refugees to enter Egypt and Jordan, that would be good, because I think there's a lot of people in Gaza that don't want to fucking be in Gaza because it's overcrowded and because everything is destroyed by now.
The 10 biggest refugee camps is 800,000 people, so that's like almost half the population.
Wait, is that a refugee camp in Gaza, or is that in?
It's the top 10. I linked it when I was arguing with Liberal Cluck. I could go find it real quick in the group chat we're all in.
Yeah, why don't we have the super pro-Palestinian people in here? What happened to that? That would have been a good thing. But I don't know.
I think I do what I can when I can. It's not always a perfect run. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know.
Wait. Is this a real tweet? Hold on. New Trump tweet. The Gaza Strip will be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled. What the fuck does that mean? The Palestinians, comma, people like Chuck Schumer? The best Trump insults are the ones that make no sense.
Go ahead, Nonfon.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
That was so rude of me.
I was just, I don't know how I'm conflicted on how I feel about this. You could, and I think Egypt was even planning on doing this at one point, like build a fence within the Sinai and let the Palestinian people move there. But I also don't know. I don't know how I feel about like moving these people. Like at that point, I might consider Gaza an open air prison if we're literally like shipping these people into like a fenced area within Egypt so they don't cause any problems within Egypt. But that could be what's best while Gaza's being like rebuilt, and then
isn't that telling though? Isn't that like all right? I just to play devil's advocate, we're gonna have to be careful how we phrase this. Isn't that telling though that like nobody wants them, and Egypt's like, oh, look, y'all gonna cause problems here. So like, yeah, we would like to help, but at the best we could do is border off this other area over here and just go, y'all are going there because we don't want you mingling with the general populace. Like,
it's telling to the level of radicalization, but that doesn't have anything to do with like the
Well,
necessity of solving the problem.
Yeah, I think it's also telling just to the way Hamas operates and the way the terrorist organizations operate. You know, they don't wear insignia. They don't.
And we know the same people hidden up in the mountains in Egypt had tunnels going into Gaza that were feeding weapons to Hamas. The Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas were working together. We know that there's a large percentage of people, if Egypt let them in, that would aid the Muslim Brotherhood, who was in control of the government until there was a military coup to push them out. So they don't want to put more lumber on the fire of resistance to the government in power, and I understand that. Like, they have good, legitimate reasons, but, you know, they could go to Turkey or something like that.
It's so wild that like each of us individually during this panel has thought more about like a practical, pragmatic solution to the situation than Donald Trump ever did before like engaging that press conference.
I mean, but hold on.
Andy's our president. Yay!
Well, this is interesting to me because you say that, but it seems like he's put some thought into this. Like, oh, Israel's done all the fighting. We're moving in after they finished. Like that means
what thought has he put into that?
With that, we're going to try to do this with a minimal loss to the U.S. troops.
Yeah, it's kind of like the biggest complaint that people had.
No. I'm sorry.
They didn't get the oil. So we're going to get the oil this time with the being the ones that are going to be in charge of investing in this land and controlling it economically, at least to a degree.
Okay, so I am totally fine with even heavy-handed U.S. intervention in resolving this conflict. I think that over almost 100 fucking years, we've established that these two peoples are not going to get along without somebody making sure that they do, at least for a generation or something. So I'm okay with even, like, military action to reunite or two-state or whatever the solution may be. My issue is that Donald Trump does not have the statesman ability or the wherewithal to manage a situation of this gravity and complexity. He's a fucking moron. He hasn't thought about this at all. He has no idea. He doesn't. I bet he. You know what? I'll do the meme. I bet he couldn't find Israel on a map.
Well, I don't know how much Trump has thought about it and how much he's just basically trying to cuck out to like Netanyahu.
Well, let's just like take a look at this though, like because like let's say hypothetically he has like good motives, right? He wants to turn it in to Puerto Rico, but make it the Riviera of the Middle East. Let's just say he actually wants to keep it a permanent U.S. like area. Would that like y'all are on the left, you know, at least tangibly? Would you think that if he came in there and was like, hey. All right, Palestinians, if y'all want to stay, if any of y'all fight us, we're kicking you out. But if y'all want to stay, you can stay and help us build, and we'll build you a nice area, and you're going to become, you know, I don't know, people of our special economic zone, and maybe your kids might be able to become American citizens after a generation or two or whatever. And then we're going to own this for perpetuity, and you can have your ancestral lands here if you stay and help us out. But if you cause any problems, you're dead or gone. And, like, this is going to be like,
that what they want?
I mean, it really doesn't matter what they want.
I
don't know. I think there could be a decent way to do that if you have it like led by mainly Arab states, and the U.S. is maybe just like the overseer. I don't even know. Like I think Tyler mentioned, I don't think Saudi Arabia would be down for like peace with Israel anytime soon if we literally deported the entire population of Gaza.
What would be the like? I guess what I'm asking you is if they did it with somewhere where he's like, these people can stay if they don't cause problems, and it was U.S. led, he didn't breathe air. So what would be the objection if it's like, okay, y'all have everything you want, you're staying here, we're keeping Israel out, we're keeping y'all, we're making sure all y'all's infrastructure is good. The only thing we're cracking down on is terrorists. We're giving you schools, we're giving you hospitals, you got power plants, we're feeding you. Like if we did all this, and the caveat was this is now an American territory. Is the only objection? We want to rule ourselves. Like
the objection is that we tried this. The objection is that we tried this. It was called Iraq.
Afghanistan.
in Afghanistan.
Well,
It
the only
didn't
reason why it didn't work in Afghanistan is because we left.
It was working while we
It
were
was
there.
not going to work in Afghanistan. Anybody who
It-
says that's
Do you
fucking
think if
delusional.
we
No, it was.
stayed
There
there
was
longer, it would have
there
worked?
was
Like, if,
there was cultural resistance.
If we had stayed like 100 years, we would have probably got it.
If 2-3 generations.
100
all right,
years.
Sure.
We're
I mean,
still
that's
in
what it takes.
Germany
Let
and
me
Japan.
give
and
the
South
fucking
Korea.
argument that's been happening since before I was even fucking born, or before I was even fucking aware. Do you want to be there for 100 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
didn't we spend $2 trillion over the course of those wars? How much would it be
I get it, but like if
times
we look at
5?
history,
That would be.
It
But hold on,
doesn't
if we-
matter.
okay,
If
why-
Trump wants
okay.
to do it, the money grows on trees. but if
Germany-
he doesn't
No, but-
like
That
it,
is
please
true,
do
actually.
it.
It's not even that. It's empire building 101. Like, look at like what Rome did. Like, why is it that all the European countries have this fondness for Rome and they wanted to return to the Holy Roman Empire over and over and over throughout history? It's because they have a shared cultural background with this, right? And it's because once they conquered an area, they stayed there for a couple hundred years and they changed the culture. They built cities. They brought these people in initially into their auxilia. Then after they serve, they can become full Roman citizens. Their kids are going to become citizens. And by generation 2, 3, these people were more Roman than they ever were German or, all these other things because they shared culture and history. So when I say, yeah, I would have liked to stay in Afghanistan 100 years, I would have liked to stay there 100 years and it'd be ours, right? And we turn it into, like in America. Like, it's a lot different than, say, like Texas, which already has this shared culture that, like, between the two. You have to sit there and build the culture.
Look,
Yeah,
there-
and then the
hold
Romans
on.
were defeated by barbarians.
Yeah, that's because
After like 2,000 years.
There is an
Well,
opposing
okay,
force.
but like,
There's an
after
opposing
2,000
force
years.
over here, China, that is doing the same thing. They're going to countries in Africa. They're going to countries in South America. They're giving
They're
them
not
a ton of
trying
money.
to make
to
them
invest.
China.
They're building them up in a similar. I mean, they're not war torn.
Yeah, but I mean, we invest in other countries too. Like, I mean, I think
That's
China's
not-
been
well,
I think China's been
I'm
gaining
with Tyler
ground
on
in
this
recent
one. It's not-
years.
This is-
It's not the same kind of investment. No, this is more of a cultural investment. I feel
they're
than,
going
like,
above and beyond.
because America has so much Iraq PTSD that they don't want to get involved in like any sort of like nation building ever again.
But there was a better way to nation build. There's some bad examples.
I agree, but Trump doesn't know how to fucking do it.
His administration. will
Also,
be
I guess
doing
I'm
it.
just not.
His administration is full
Hold
of
on, hold on.
sycophants, dick sucks,
Let's-
and
let's-
retards. No, they
Let me-
wouldn't.
Let's
Doug
hold
Burgum
on.
is
Hold
the
on
man.
one second. Let Nonfon.
Pete
Go
Hanks.
ahead.
I think
Well,
I
don't keep cutting him off. Let Nonfon go. Here, let him go. Go ahead.
I think I could be sold on this, but I guess like right now I'm not super sold that like a two-state solution is literally impossible. So like if I'm not sold that a two-state solution is impossible, then I would want to. I think that's the aim that we should be striving for. And I don't know if a U.S. territory is like preferable to
why
giving
you-
the Palestinian people self-determination.
I know why you think that the two-state solution is possible. You ready for this big brain take I got? right
Okay.
here?
Yep.
It's a real big brain, right? It's because you're young. Once you get a little older, you're just gonna be like
Literally,
you're gonna
fuck
be.
you. I'm so
It's
fucking
not-
tired of that
it's
being
not
used
that-
as an argument
it's
to
real.
legitimize
No,
someone's
hold
opinion.
on.
What a
It's
fucking
actually-
stupid.
it's
I
actually-
expect
it's
better
not-
from you, Gibbs.
Oh, well,
Jesus Christ.
and it's actually not dismissive, and I'm going to tell you why. I think that you still have that like you still are like optimistic, like you still see this world in like a green thing, and that's good. Rose-colored glasses. I think that's a good thing. Don't try to hold out as long as you can. I now at this point don't see the world that way, and after all like 30 years of just seeing these people killing each other, I am very convinced that they don't want. They hate each other. They want to wipe each other out, right? And so I wonder what is the most humane thing. Is like it's like if you have two pit bulls and they hate each other, what's the humane thing to do? Well, you rehome one of them so they don't kill
Yeah,
each other.
I
right?
understand why in your old age and senility your dementia would lead you to that conclusion, but us young
Correct.
people with
Maybe
working
CTE.
brains don't feel that way.
CTE.
So.
I feel entirely vindicated in predicting this. I was worried that like when I said that like if Trump was elected, the two-state solution might end up just being permanently dead. I was worried that was because like I was young and I had never seen like, these people fighting before, and like whenever these people were fighting people for the first time, seeing it would say like, oh, this is the last round of fighting. This is it. Like there's not going to be nothing after this. Now that we're talking about like annexing the West Bank and deporting all of Gaza, I feel entirely vindicated saying because Trump was elected, the
People are
two-state
just
solution
smarter,
is
it
now
seems.
substantially less likely.
We don't have the extra decade of retard clogging up our brain.
The caveats
So
that
real.
you guys were giving earlier were caveats to this. He's not saying everyone has to go. He said he's going to rebuild it for the people that are there. But anyone that's not on board with the U.S. coming in there and doing this, they're the ones that he wants out. So I don't necessarily see it as like, I see it as what you guys are saying. It's going to be similar to, probably not 1-to-1, but similar to how Puerto Rico is maybe in 25 years. And you'll see J.D. Vance cut the success ribbon in 12 years from now for the celebration because they rebuilt the whole place with Saudi Arabia's dime.
He'd have to win the election first.
Well,
I guess I don't see, and maybe this isn't necessarily a bad thing, how practical it would be to make Gaza Puerto Rico without Hamas being completely gotten rid of, and I don't know.
We already got
I don't know
most of them.
Who?
I don't know if we got. Well,
yeah, I mean,
what?
it's the size.
Oh man!
It's
Oh fuck!
smaller
What?
than
Oh no!
They couldn't even take Israel. There's 9 million people there. We're about to roll up in there with the #1 army the world has ever seen in the history of humanity.
Also,
it's feasible to get rid of Hamas. I don't know how feasible it is to get rid of Hamas without like a massive civilian toll.
Well, this is something.
Is Mad Gaza worth provoking a nuclear war potentially
hold
with
on.
the Arab states by the direct U.S. intervention
Nuclear war
of
with the Arab
potentially
states.
militaries? Yeah.
No, first of all, no Arab states other than Israel have a nuke.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So that's no nuke there.
There's
We have-
that
Egypt, I
senility
thought-
coming back in here.
I thought Egypt had nukes. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Maybe
Did they
I
have?
don't know. I don't think they have nukes. I'm pretty sure. I could. Be
We
wrong.
know that
You look it
Iran
up.
has a nuclear program.
I'd be interested.
We
Yeah, we know
that for a
Iran has a
fact.
nuclear program. But here's my thinking, right? You know, it's just I don't think I'm worried about that. This is something people need to hear. It's not Iraq. It's not Afghanistan. You know what it is? It's a territory that's smaller than the King Ranch in Texas, not just the Rhode Island. It's smaller than a fucking ranch in Texas, okay? It's only a few miles wide, a few miles long. Let me just give you an example here. People tell me all the time when I'm like, yeah, Texas Revolution 2.0, Republican Texas. People are like, y'all can't take the U.S. government. They're too strong. They gonna whoop your ass. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna get our ass beat when the average Texan owns 3.5 guns.
Yeah,
right?
you are.
But oh, we're going to get bogged down in a quagmire where we can't win in an area that's smaller than a ranch. All right, you can't have it both ways. It's either
Okay, are you gonna spend
And-
decades digging supply tunnels and shafts, interconnecting every building in King's Ranch so that you can use it as are you gonna spend decades building up military connections to funnel in weapons
yes,
and supplies?
Texas is already doing that. You know that,
Okay.
right? We have our own military
Okay.
branches.
Based,
Like that's a
guess.
thing that
Okay.
Texans are already doing.
Yeah, I know.
shit.
You all love your state guard. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm not talking about the
That,
state guard.
but
Texas has some
okay.
military branches. Did you know that? We
Your
have
state guard
3
is violating international law by human shielding underneath the population of Austin.
Yeah.
They got Chuck Norris.
Don't
too.
worry about it. Yeah, we got Chuck Norris.
Everything's
Chuck
bigger in
Norris.
Texas,
And George Strait.
including the war crimes.
And Shawn Michaels. You don't want to mess with that trio right there. That's an ass whooping trio.
Real quick, I saw something in chat that's kind of a narrative I've been seeing about Hamas saying that they have more people joining right now. They're bigger than they ever are. That was said by somebody in Hamas, like one of the new members of leadership, after their entire leadership got completely wiped out by Israel. And it's not been verified, and governments are coming out. But there's an article in The Economist called Hamas Talks a Big Game, but it's in chaos. And it kind of breaks down how that's bullshit.
I don't know, Tyler. I read it on the internet. so-
Unless they're hiding people somewhere where we can't detect them by satellite and shit. They don't have control of the tunnels anymore. Like, where are these people that they're claiming that they are flooding?
Well, wait. So doesn't that just demolish what Gibbs was trying to say? Because we did get rid of Hamas, or at the very least we neutered them to the point where they're not militarily a threat.
Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah.
exactly my
The
point.
fighting's over. Like, if you look at the
They're
death
not gonna-
toll,
I'm not
since-
worried about us going in there and conquering it because what are they
That
going
toll's
to do
been
to us?
pretty stagnant for a few months. Yeah.
now. And
I mean, look at our
just
cable.
saw,
Something else then. I'm sorry.
We
I
just
mean,
saw-
you brought up Afghanistan earlier. What was our KD ratio there?
in the last year, I think 18 months, nobody had died before the withdrawal. I know that.
Yeah, it was 1 to 900.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But there's
KD
army
ratio. How many assists though?
recruitment.
A lot of it.
How many assists do we get from
We don't-
from
we
the
don't need-
locals?
We didn't plenty, bro. You know, the locals like that.
Do you lose points for friendly fire? Army recruitment hit a milestone. First time in 15 years that we saw recruitment hit these numbers. January 2025 under Trump and Hegseth.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. A lot of military guys tend to be meatheads.
Yeah, so we're gonna see. We're gonna have some troops to go and take care of Gaza. Make sure that Army Engineering Corps that's probably gonna be helping build there is
Well, then that's okay. When the multi-Arab nation-state war breaks out over this dumb little fucking strip of territory,
But
at
why
least
are you-
natural selection can take place, and we can be relieved of some of the MAGA voter
interesting you
base.
say that. Interesting you say that. Guess what happened today? The new Syrian military invaded Lebanon.
Oh, really? Oh,
Based? I didn't
that.
see that.
Yeah, they fucking took over
breaking news.
Yeah, they took over portions of the border along Lebanon because they were saying we're sick of y'all smuggling drugs and fighters in here to fight for the.
Oh my God!
Assad
Just like
government.
Trump-based.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wait, did this happen? When you say this happened today, did it happen like 5 minutes ago?
Like 3 or 4 hours ago was when I was reading it.
Yeah.
In the doctor's office.
When I saw that they were persecuting Christians in
I can see if I can find a leak for y'all.
in New Syria.
I think I posted it in my Discord somewhere. Go ahead.
But
sorry.
that's it. I don't know if it's anecdotal. I saw they were persecuting Christians.
Oh, fuck.
I saw it on Twitter, so it could be anecdotal and not actually like a thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, here you go. It's in the Syria watch. It's the last one. And I posted today.
Damn,
This-
look at them go.
Yeah, they're not playing around. So, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, so when you say like it's going to be a
Do you not hear
state
what Tyler
country,
just said, Grand
multi-state
Designs
war,
enjoy?
like,
That would be because I think that the majority of the Arab states, with the exception of like Egypt, basically are broadly anti-West and anti-America, and I feel like military action in the Middle East is like, especially prolonged military action. You're describing like a potential 100-year occupation to try and like restore this territory to some sort of like, livable state. Okay, yeah, that's even worse in terms of provocation. I'm not sure, like, you don't think there would be any, like, large-scale war between the surrounding states and this new American territory?
What are they gonna do?
Yeah, who?
Who's gonna fight us? Not Saudi Arabia. They fucking love us. I mean, we're training all their pilots to fly Apaches. They're basically our second
Not
Israel.
UAE. They're working with
UAE, they're tiny as fuck. What are they gonna do? Send like 3 people out there with like spit guns? Like, come on.
Qatar?
I mean, not Qatar. They're small. Turkey might, but apparently they're supposed to be part of NATO. They'll probably use an excuse to us going there as an excuse to go kill the Kurds in Syria. I mean,
we are describing right
Egypt
now.
I'm not sure how many states would literally declare war on us, but I do think we'd be basically decreasing our amount of soft power in the world because all these states are not going to want to ally with us, and all these states are never going to ally with Israel if we control the Gaza Strip and the Palestinian people like never get statehood.
That was
what we're
one of my
describing,
concerns, actually.
Why? Okay, hold on. This is maybe.
What
maybe I
we're
don't
describing now
understand
too is the present mentalities of these nations. We have no idea what this looks like once there's an established, like, thriving U.S. territory right next door to them.
Yeah, my question is this: why is it that the Palestinians specifically, deserve statehood over all these other countries? Like, say, I don't know. I'll give an example.
Kurds
That we don't recognize. No, not the Kurds. This is even a better one. This is even a more legitimate country that's not recognized as a country. Taiwan. Why do the Palestinians deserve something that Taiwan, who actually owns all of their land, has control and has fought China off? Why do Taiwan not deserve to be a state, but Palestine, who's never won anything and never been a state, deserves something?
Gibbs, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, okay? Taiwan is a country. Just don't tell China, okay? Just don't tell China.
Yeah, I mean, I think Taiwan probably does deserve statehood. It's just complicated to recognize statehood for them because of our relations with China.
They're treated in every sense like a nation state outside of the official recognition,
that's
right?
Not true.
Indian
what else?
reservations should have statehood. That's what I'm saying.
What else what are they lacking besides like the official declaration of like?
They can't make a lot of trade deals and shit because of they're not recognized as a state.
Well, okay, is that because they're not recognized as a state, or is that because? Well, if I say is it because of the relationship with
I think
China,
it's like
kind of
the World Trade Organization
Yeah.
can't recognize them as a state or whatever, so they can't be a full member of the WTO, and that stops them from doing shit. But I don't know the.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of levels, right?
Yeah, this is
But,
not
like,
an
if we-
area of expertise for me. I would not.
I just don't think it's practical to give Taiwan statehood without solving all of our issues with China. I mean, like, but I would still say they're deserving
Well, it
of
would
statehood.
solve our issues. I just might not solve them in a happy way. And we did that.
What we see with the tariffs with China is people are moving to neighboring countries to move the businesses there. So not only has China, because of the economic prospering they've been seeing, wages in China have been going up, and like $4 an hour doesn't seem like a lot to us, but in countries where the dollar goes a bit further, $4 an hour is quite a bit, and that's kind of like the average wage there now. So I think that this tariff mixed with that is we're seeing businesses that were doing their manufacturing there move other places. Plus, Trump is threatening U.S. firms with a 100% tariff if they're U.S. based and took their jobs overseas. So we might see things come back. Even when he threatened tariffs against Canada, food companies said that if these tariffs get slapped in, they have to move their manufacturing to the United States. So,
yeah, I mean, we're going to agree a little bit. I think there is a strong case to be made for tariffs on at least some Chinese goods. I think targeted tariffs are going to be more effective than literally just tariffing everything, because if there are certain goods I don't really care if we buy from China, and if you tariff everything, you appreciate exchange rates more, and that undoes some of the effect of the tariffs. But I'm all for trying to offshore stuff, or trying to not offshore it, but get it production of.
I guess.
No, it's called friendshoring. Friendshore stuff from China to allied nations. Exactly, and I think basically everything Trump does is preventing the process of friendshoring from happening. He did this when he did tariff. We had tariffs on some stuff from China already when Trump came to office, but like when he did tariffs on washing machines, that also hurt washing machines that we got from like South Korea and Japan, which are our allies. I don't really care if we're buying washing machines from South Korea and Japan. I don't think we should be damaging our relationship with these countries, including the EU, which he might have a trade war with next. We'll see. Just to get shit out of China. You can get shit out of China by just tariffing certain goods they don't want production to be in China, and you can either subsidize it here or let it go to an allied nation.
So I want to. What's real quick? I want to get your Nonfon, your opinion on this too, because I know you posted about this on Twitter a few times, and I saw Econoboy post about it as well. And it's the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and I don't know if it was Tyler. Was Tyler I think said it? I think Fabi literally also said it. And they're like, in the context of, hey, we're trying to empire build. This is a very empire building thing. And I think that's included because a lot of countries that have tried to build empires have similar things to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. It's a step in that direction. Would you agree with that sentiment, or what do you think of the Sovereign Wealth Fund? What are your opinions on it here?
I mean, I think I'm not going to be as pro Sovereign Wealth Fund as Econoboy, okay? But sure. I don't know how much I care about the Sovereign Wealth Fund just because it's good for empire building. I don't think it's actively destructive the same way that tariffs on our allies are. So I think that's a good thing. Sovereign wealth funds invest in other countries, and that often helps them rather than hurting them. But I think, sovereign wealth funds, I think, are pretty cool. The U.S. is not in a great fiscal situation, so I don't know how I feel about the opportunity cost of, collecting revenue and using it to fund a sovereign wealth fund instead of just paying down the debt. I don't know how I feel about that. But I think this is the most base thing Trump has done so far. Okay, is the sovereign wealth fund.
Okay, yeah. Tyler, you look at Jack. JC, you can get in there too as well. Well, whoever wants to jump in first.
Sorry, my cat knocked over a glass dish. I'm gonna have to be caught up here.
You're good.
Oh, you're good. We're talking sovereign wealth fund. I'll let Tyler go.
Yeah, I've never really looked into it, so I'm not 100% sure where I fall on it yet. And it is good for the expansionism point that you're saying, but it's mostly a more developing nation thing. The part that bothers me about it that hasn't really sold me on it is I don't like the government acting as a competitor against the free market in the free market, because they're also the ones that make the rules and are supposed to be policing the rules. There's supposed to be a third-party body that oversees it. So let's look at the post office. There was an instance where a gentleman competed with the post office, and they ended up passing laws making it illegal for certain companies to do certain things and charge certain amounts, so they couldn't undercut the post office. That's why it's losing money, and the only thing they can do is use law to bolster the post office by making mail cost more for everyone that goes to a private company instead. And the idea of that is, once this company is in decline, it's in the government's interest to just not let it fail. So, let's say we invest in fucking Polaroid cameras, and then the smartphone comes out, and we're like, oh, our government's doing everything they can to keep the Polaroid camera industry alive, even though nobody fucking wants one anymore, because that's where the sovereign wealth fund is. And I just don't like the idea of us relying on the market investment, especially for shorter term investment.
JC?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not convinced this is a super huge problem in like democracies. As long as we're a democratic country and these things are relatively transparent, I think ideally the sovereign wealth fund would be managed, like semi-independently. It's not going to be managed directly by politicians, I would hope. I don't foresee that being a big problem. I don't think it's a problem like in Norway or in Alaska, who both have like sovereign wealth funds. It probably is. I don't know the full extent of sovereign wealth funds in less developed countries, but I would understand something like that happening in Venezuela, maybe.
I've never.
Now you sold me the other way. With
Tossing
one word.
out. I'm just tossing out ideas like maybe the sovereign wealth fund lets something stay. The government pumps money into a program that like the economy would let die because we've innovated past it, but because we have an investment in it, because it's generating X amount of tax dollars, we need to keep it alive, and it ends up being a money suck. And we end up spending more to keep something alive that we should have innovated past, which a business that has to make these decisions and otherwise they collapse would be able to make, where our government would take 30 years to realize and make a lot
Wow,
of dumb
look at this
choices
guy.
along
So
All
actually,
free market now.
Toby-Wan Kenobi brings up a good point about the post office, but part of I think that the only reason why it's losing money is, or the major reason is the retirement funds for post office employees. That is true. I think he brings up a good point there. The post office is fairly efficient. I will say that. Okay, I'm going to give 2 examples. I have some concerns about the sovereign wealth fund. Because one, I'm not a bigger. I like big foreign policy government. I don't like so much big government when it comes to domestic policy. But I could be sold in the sovereign wealth fund, seeing how it goes one way or the other. I do have concerns about it being like exactly like what you just described, where it's like they play too much with the economy because they're trying to like push one thing or another, and also like the efficiency of it. Like the post office is probably. When's the last time you walked into a post office? I don't know if it's recently, but unless you live like in a small town, the post office is fucking awful. It's like the DMV in Texas used to be. The DMV now in Texas is pretty nice. They have like super centers where you can go in there, they'll get you out in 15, 20 minutes. But used to, you'd be there all day. You have an appointment at like noon, just go ahead and get ready to be there till 3:30, right? Same thing with the post office. You got to get in a line, and it's terrible at the major cities. And I do think that it's a concern that they're taking over like the private market in some regards. I don't necessarily like that. However, like I said, I could be sold. Like in Texas, for example, we use something similar to sovereign wealth fund for education. We have the tax at the well, and all the money goes to 2 colleges, Texas A&M and the University of Texas, and then those schools have to spend all the money in there by the end of the year. Otherwise, it goes to the general education fund, and these schools are always just expanding. In fact, Texas A&M just got ranked number 9 in the nation and number 1 in Texas. It's because of this, and there's always a shitload of money left over in that fund because there's no way they could spend all the money from taxes on oil. So I could see it working like similar to that. I think that's kind of what Norway does. They tax oil, and the oil goes to the sovereign wealth fund for each individual citizen. There's ways it could be sold to me. But I'm a little concerned. But JC, what we get your thoughts here?
Sure. So I love to point out, just because it always surprises me, that I'm like 1-to-1 in agreement with Tyler here. Maybe a step further depending on like the margins. But to me, the role of the market is to innovate and to expand and to grow the the quality of life and the all sorts of things like that. And the role of the government is to impose regulations on the market where necessary to prevent runaway things like a monopoly, and to help prop up the losers of the capitalistic system in a way where they can at least have some sort of quality of life other than starving to death on the streets. So to me, any sort of government involvement in investiture is just like a non-starter. The government should, for exactly the reason Tyler laid out, the incentive structure there is just too fucked. With regards to the post office, that's actually something that I don't think should ever be privatized. The postal service, shipping things, mailing things, there needs to be a good to great degree of government oversight on what's getting shipped, where it's getting shipped, some security checks, x-rays, all of that. Like, I want the government involved in every process of that, because shipping is something that is so crucial to our both domestic and global economy that there needs to be, this is one of those instances where the government needs to be stepping in and regulating, and I am even, like I said, okay with them just controlling it outright. I don't think that the market needs to be competitive in every single aspect. I just think that when we start to say, okay, we can cede some of this to the government, or we can potentially cede all of this to the government, like I'm proposing with the post office, then we need to be able to explain why. Like, we don't have the private, I mean, I guess illegally, but at least in the United States, legally, we don't have a private market for militaries. Right. The United States military is the supreme armed forces body of the United States. There aren't like private companies that are investing in training soldiers, arming soldiers to compete with the United States Army. And that's a good thing.
There are, though. There actually are, though.
Well, sure, there are.
For national defense?
Yeah, we have.
For...
The U.S. military has, like, well, I don't know about for national.
I was about to say they're not the U.S. military.
I mean, yeah, I know we have like some private security companies that you can hire. I'm just not. I don't know how much of that is for national.
Not a comparison point. Yeah, well, and the same with like these like dipshit militia groups too. Those are not, and they're not even trying to compete in the market.
Well,
no, there is no.
Well, I mean, it's not like compete with the U.S. military. It's more like fill a niche. Like, for example, you mentioned training. Like a lot of these companies, like we'll use what's the most controversial one? Like Blackwater, right? They would go in there and hire former soldiers, you know, or former high-level, like, policemen and other stuff. And then a lot of companies like that, they'll get contracts for the U.S. military to train, like, the local militaries.
Well, okay, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is no market competition for who is going to be the United States' official armed forces body. That has been wholly ceded to the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that.
That's what I'm saying is, like, I see, like, shipping and the protection of and the preservation of, like, a safe and secure shipping system is as important to me. It almost goes hand in hand with, at times, the military, to the point where the federal government should be the only people that are dealing with that. We shouldn't have any sort of private competition in that, because while innovation I think innovation can still happen in the same sense that it still does with the military. Developing technology for this government service isn't the same thing as competing with the government service. So, like, when you're bringing up these security companies training soldiers, that's all well and good. I'm glad. I want the United States military to be the most powerful military in the world, which means I want them to have access to as much training and as much techniques and as much weaponry as, like, the world has available. But I definitely don't want Blackwater training an army to go head-to-head with the United States government in an open market where we actually get to, like, decide with a dollar who gets to be our military body.
Well, you know, there's been times in history where private companies have had militaries on par with the U.S. military.
Yes, but the fact that you're saying times in history means that those were probably mistakes that were learned from.
I don't know about that.
We're arguing for privatizing national defense now.
I mean, well, Pepsi's one of them. Pepsi had like the third largest military in the world at one point because they bought, I don't know, but a shitload of old ships that are about to get scrapped. They're all military ships or some shit.
Well, yeah, but that
doesn't really count.
I was gonna say, like, if that's all we've got, then
the one that comes to mind is now this is gonna be debatable. If you were a fan and you held stock in this company or were a person that you loved this, it was the East India Trading Company comes to mind. They were basically conquering whole countries on their own for the British Empire. And like had portions of the British Navy basically working for them as opposed to working directly for the crown.
Even that was state supported, right? Like that was.
Well, so yeah,
Right,
yeah,
but
it
I mean, there's
was.
still like a competitor kind of thing. Though.
This was sort of like Hessian mercenaries fighting with the Confederates, right? But that's hiring mercenaries as opposed to like a marketplace for a national like this is the thing is like the fact that you're bringing up all of these extraneous examples is just demonstrating like how incompatible the idea of like an open market and like a national defense body actually is we can't even find anything analogous in history because that's one of those things that we just go, well, of course the government gets to decide who the military is. I'm saying the government gets to decide how the post office and the postal system and the shipping system runs. It's the same level of importance. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I mean, like, I get it. I'm not totally opposed to it. I think it would also be very hard for like any one company to even remotely compete with the U.S. military, like at that level.
Right.
That would be that. I don't want to say impossible, but it would have to. It'd be less like a company being that, and more like maybe like Exxon or some other major corporation decide they were going to get into that game.
Imagine it happening like tomorrow in the world today. Like if it just happens tomorrow, suddenly it's legal and it starts. Yeah, I would agree with you. But if this was a precedent in America, like 150 years ago, where we were having like tryouts effectively for who was going to be our military body, and it wasn't just something that the government decided. I feel like we might be living in a different world today, and you might not be able to make the same argument as confidently. So it's something. It's one of those like historically entrenched things. We're talking about Israel-Palestine. The reason that the like Gaza situation is so fucked is it's so historically entrenched that those people are getting fucked. So sometimes history fucks you so hard that you can't unfuck yourself.
I mean, like, obviously, the free market exists on a spectrum, right? So, like, we
non-binary.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously our military to some extent contracts, private actors, to defend embassies and to train people. But like when it comes to the actually running the US military and making those decisions, that's all made by the government. And I think that like when it comes to the post office, first of all, if the post office is insolvent because of the retirement fund, I'm just saying, Norway uses their sovereign wealth fund for a pension fund. Okay, we could get rid of all the government pension plans, get rid of we can get rid of all the veterans benefits and just use the sovereign wealth fund to fund all that shit. Okay, I think that I don't know if Norway uses it for veterans, but we could use it for that. I just don't know. Oh damn! Oh boy!
We lost our glorious leader.
Oh man!
Papa,
he's back.
I don't know what happened there. My Discord just reset for some reason.
Obama.
Yeah, that's who did it.
Nonfon was probably making a really good point, and then
Nonfon just destroyed every argument you've made all
exactly.
night.
Exactly.
I heard all of it. Don't worry.
I mean, it's just for me, like the post office, I don't know much of the empirics about it, but it'd be like an empirical question, like how much does the private market fail in delivering postal services to rural areas? I think certainly like there's probably some cases of military bases in Alaska and everything where the post service is like the best, cheapest option. And like maybe the private market does actually fail in giving affordable postage to these areas. Well, I don't know how much it applies to all of rural America. And then one last point. The post office just isn't a huge deal to me if we also allow private competition. Now, Tyler brought up that like we do apparently, make rules that restrict private competition in favor of the post office. But so long as there are, reasonable alternatives to using the post service, it's not a major deal to me if we also have a government-owned enterprise.
Yeah, Platinum sold. Nobody brought up Amazon. I mean, the other thing, that's part of the portion.
To the left of you on this, then, Nonfon.
But Amazon's also found other ways to like go around the
fascist.
I'm the biggest libertarian ever. Okay.
I like kind of like it fall kind of the like this category where I would rather have the free market just handle it like on a lot of things, especially with like. I think that's pretty obvious. I was arguing with iCal last night about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And he's like, oh, well, what's the free market doing? And I sent him like links to like 3 different companies that are using like the plastic out there to build bricks. They have little drone robots. He's like, well, we should incentivize this. And I'm like, No, well, we shouldn't. We should just let the market take care of it, because I feel like once you start incentivizing, and like that is that is a problem with the post office.
Positive government intervention in the market is kind of rough for me. I like them slapping bad actors on the wrists more than I like them like saying. Now there are certain subsidies that obviously we can't exist without, like the way that our economy is kind of structured now. Like we need to subsidize certain things to stay afloat. I get that. Principally, I'm sort of against it.
What about the CHIPS Act?
What about
I
it?
love the CHIPS Act, especially the DEI and the CHIPS Act. I actually only like the CHIPS Act because of the DEI.
I was gonna say I only liked the DEI part of the CHIPS Act, so I didn't like the subsidization, but the DEI part, that was actually why I supported it. The part where they specifically said that helicopter pilots have to be female.
You know, there's a lot of like things that I think the free market fails in, simply because like people don't want to, like, even if there's people innovating and investing in how to clean up trash in the ocean, there's just no incentive for people to, you know, use their own money and to like clean up the ocean for everyone, you know, because it's a private cost and a public benefit. And even if they benefit, they like to some extent, it's not priced in because the whole of society benefits, and we should try to price that in via a subsidy, right? So I think like that's the reason. And also if you just look at like charity as a percent of GDP, it's always been about 2%. As far as I know, there's not been a country where it's ever been above 2% for more than like maybe 1 or 2 years. The US is one of the most charitable countries. Charity is still like 2% of GDP. I'm not convinced that the market can solve problems like poverty and like, you know, negative externalities like pollution on its own. There needs to be a mechanism to internalize externalities. That includes taxing things that are negative externalities and subsidizing things that are positive externalities, like cleaning up garbage patches, because it's a public benefit and a private cost. And that's just not a good, you know, that throws the market into disequilibrium.
For real,
I see what you're saying.
Read Why Nations Fail. Like the positive economic institutions are literally exactly what he's talking about, investing in these things, investing in incentives. Like we give $600 million a year to cold fusion, not because we have it, not because it's like doing anything, but if we can achieve that shit, that's like the fucking, like what, the mecca, the holy grail of energy. So it's good to have that sort of market intervention and good things that can move us forward. That's how we got about all the green energy advances.
Well,
as someone who looked into cold fusion after the fucking Fallout show, because I was like, oh damn, how close is this? We're like so far away. I think it's a waste of money.
Well,
I'm with Doge on this one.
No, well, it's interesting we're with Doge, because guess what? I feel like this is a perfect segue here this last 15 minutes.
No.
To talk about something. What do we think about USAID being cut, and then the revelation that millions of dollars are going to news agencies like Politico and CBS, and I think there's one more. What do we think about this? Thoughts?
Fascism.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, okay, I'm no lawyer. Okay, I just watched the WIC panel. Okay, and like I don't know, like when Lactoid says things.
Did you feel like you learned a lot from it?
No. So like
I learned that Pisco doesn't accept friend requests.
True, real. I bet he'd accept my friend request.
He probably would. You're cooler than me.
Accurate. What was I gonna say? Oh, so like when I don't know, when people say like I don't know what authority a special government employee has, but you know, obviously it's not legal for a president to unilaterally shut down an agency. I don't even if the funding is, you know, meant to be not indefinite or whatever, I think like the way that Trump is going about these things just is way too chaotic, even if I agree with the end goal. I don't think you should be sending out, I don't think you should be doing things where you don't know what the effect of them even is, and you don't know what the legality of them even is. I mean, unless like, I'll add, like, there are nuanced cases where, like, maybe it's okay to do something legally questionable because you want to, like, force the issue to be held in a court. Maybe that is acceptable sometimes. I think I haven't done a ton of reading on it. I think USAID is probably a good thing for the America soft power. I'm not convinced that it's entirely wasteful. A lot of this stuff is going to, like, fucking poor African nations where people have malaria. I'm fine tossing them 1% of GDP, less than one. It's not 1% of GDP. It's less than 1% of the federal government budget. Like, it's just not a huge deal to me for the amount of lives it saves and for the amount of goodwill it probably builds up.
What about specifically though, the stuff that USA is giving, like that's not giving, like the other countries, like what's going, like the Politico, for example, and because Doghouse tried to paint this picture last night, and I wasn't as researched as I am today, where it's like, oh, they all paying $1,000 for one computer program, and there's 170 employees, and so if they have to get 2 of these different things from Politico, that's $2,000 per. Well, that's, you know, I don't know, $340,000 right there. And then I look today, and it's like $8 million to Politico. It's like million. Well, that seems sus to me personally. Like, do y'all find? I mean, and then also there's links to what CBS and some. I think there was another one I saw. Like, well, okay, if it's USA that's supposed to be going to other countries, why are we giving money? Isn't that an embezzlement? Like that's
BBC.
Yeah, the BBC. Okay, well, this BBC's overseas. I could maybe figure out something there. But like, why are we giving money to these news organizations?
Yeah, I'll
I
answer
thought
your
the
question for
Politico.
Politico.
Yeah, JC
go
might
ahead,
know more than me.
No, go ahead, because you're probably about to say what I just learned. Go ahead.
I forget exactly what I think. The political thing is just like what the congressmen's like campaign offices like use to like report on bills or something. JC might know more than me, but
Politico Pro is like a subscription news content like service that they use, and the money that they're getting from USAID is government agencies subscribing to Politico Pro. So if you have an issue with the government getting like premium news subscriptions, like spending funding on premium news subscriptions, maybe take an issue with premium news subscriptions. Fuck you, Washington Post. I want to read more than 2 articles a week.
Are they doing it with Fox News Plus too?
Well, I don't know.
That would be the question. If they're doing it with like every streaming service, they're saying get your news where you want. If they're funneling them into certain news outlets, it's a scam.
This isn't funneling. This isn't funneling. And like I'm gonna be real, I wouldn't be this up in arms if they were only subscribed to Fox News Plus and not Politico Pro.
I'm just asking questions.
It would be a premium. Yeah, I know, but you're just engaging in the same fucking fallacy that forms the foundation of like every argument that you make.
I didn't do any research. Oh, shut up. I didn't do any research on this, so I'm kind of just like out of the loop on it. So that's why I'm asking. Like, is it? I think we need more investigation. I don't think we've seen enough. But in terms of like what you were asking though, Gibbs, like I don't think Trump legally, he said this with the Department of Education. He doesn't think he can shut it down without Congress and the union, teachers unions backing him, and he won't get either of those probably. So chances are this is a stalling tactic to get his people, trusted people that are over here doing X, Y, and Z. I know, right? His trusted people doing X, Y, and Z over here, give them time to do all this, and then move to the next thing, He's going to get these held up in court for a few months and stall the aid that they're putting out. Basically, make it so that money's not going out until they have the chance to get to it.
Well,
can we talk about Elon Musk's cronies plugging hard drives into like why are we so obsessed with these dumbass oh my god, people bought subscriptions to a news service instead of, hey, holy fucking shit, cronies for Elon Musk are fucking like installing hard drives into servers with secure data for U.S. citizens.
I would like to talk about Elon Musk's choices with those real quick. I find it interesting though that he started with the places he started. Right, because if he really wanted to do what all the Republicans and MAGA wanted, the first agency he would have started with is not USAID, it's the ATF. That's what he should have started with, right? If he was really going to pander to the base. But instead, what did he do? He went after USAID. So I do have some questions.
Because like Trump, now that he's in power, he doesn't care what you guys think. He doesn't give a fuck about you, Gibbs, or any of the other MAGA voters that he claimed that he loves. He doesn't care about any of you. He has the power, okay?
Well,
you guys got
he's
suckered.
Making me a lot of money. He's making me a lot of money.
You guys got suckered by Trump, and now we have to deal with the consequences. And the consequences are they lied to you for months, and now you get nothing. Maybe you get something because you might get some tax benefits.
Well, that too. But I also get money because I fucking sell B2B cells, and he has now fucking basically 2 cities worth of people that have supported in business that have been buying our services. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what Musk is doing. It's bringing me business. So like, yeah, his interests align with mine somewhat in some regard. I don't know Yeah, but I do wish he had started with the ATF. I don't know why that was. That feels like that'd be an easy win. Like, is anybody on the left even really just like, I love the ATF? Like, I can't.
I love the ATF. I don't know
Okay,
enough about the ATF to
They
know.
did explain this. They did talk about this, that they're going after the. They can't go after mandatory spending nearly as easily. They can't go after these administrations nearly as
Oh,
easily.
how convenient.
They're still working on putting through methods. They just put through one to make it easier to fire federal employees, but there's a lot of checks on getting rid of federal employees, so they're working through those real quick. But what they can do right now is go in and do
Godspeed to them.
a different sorts of spending, like grants. Grants are not allocated to go to a specific thing, so they can go in and say, halt this program right now, halt the brakes, and we'll take a look at everything before we send any more money out. And that's kind of what the stalling tactic, I think. This is all speculation, but I think it's a stalling tactic.
Well, okay, what does that have to do with them plugging hard drives into computers? That's what I want to talk about. That's the shit that makes me
Are you
that's
talking about
why I'm saying
the treasury
you got
computers?
duped.
Maybe they have some software on that computer that they need to.
Well,
move
okay,
over.
let me ask this then. Okay, so all right, listen, I know people.
Are we
don't like
against these guys' names being put out there? That was something that I saw that was like, and I'm an anti-doxing guy. I am not against their names being put
If they're
out there.
paid government actors, no. If they're hired private actors, yes.
So let me just say this.
They're
right?
hired private actors in the employ of a government bureau.
Yeah,
I
you shouldn't. Yeah, I don't think.
So here's my thing, right? Okay,
No,
let me
no,
just throw this at you. You brought up
They have access to
you brought up the like hard drive thing, right? And so I'm looking at it like this, right? Okay, I know that the left doesn't like Elon. All right, but let's just for the funsies here. DOGE exists now, and let's just give Elon the benefit of the doubt for the sake of this argument, right? Let's say he actually is going in there trying to clean up stuff and do it efficiently. And we would assume whenever he's been sanctioned by the president, now I know you don't like Trump either, Trump's the oversight. He can't just go and do this unilaterally. He's got to go to the president, and he's got to go, hey, I now have access to this information we didn't have before. This was their stated goal. This is what's happening. Here's the KPI, right? The KPI metrics are here. They're not meeting their goal. So in order for him to do that, he's going to need that internal information, I would assume.
Unique
And like
things to
people are
do,
like,
New
no, we
York.
don't want to look at the
Welcome to the-
books. I'm like, isn't the whole point of DOGE to like take a look at the books?
Okay.
Like,
Not when these guys are just letting themselves into government buildings, plugging in hard drives without saying anything to anybody, and trying to keep their names unknown.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much authority they have to do this. I'd have to research on that, and also like the
we
thing
don't
that
even know
they're
who they are.
yeah, and then they're taking over like the treasury payment systems to
Gibbs,
control
you are looking at
all
this
federal
from a
payments.
very
It seems a
charitable
little
perspective, which is understandable given your like partisan bias. I understand that, but you have to understand how this looks to Nonfon and I. It looks like Elon, who I assume agree is sort of acting like an unelected oligarch, is utilizing his government position for insane personal enrichment and benefit, is now deploying personal lackeys into government buildings that he has access to by virtue of his relationship to the president and accessing secure information of United States citizens for dubious reasons.
so now I want you. So everything you just said, I want you to like really revel in that feeling for a second.
Put a blue D
No,
in
hold
front
on.
of that and tell me you wouldn't disagree.
Hold on,
with it.
just I want you to like suck in that feeling. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good, right? You don't like that feeling? That is how Republicans have felt for the last 20 years, bro. We have sat here and said, "Oh, this
20
guy,
years.
yeah, this guy."
So
Soros
wait,
has got three fingers
then
in the
you're
pie.
saying,
I'm not gonna
if
go.
a Democrat did that, you would dislike it.
I'm saying, hold on. Here's what I'm saying. I would say something worse. I'm going to say that the Democrats have set up a system that benefits them so much that they don't have to do that because they're already running the system. They know. And what Trump's trying to do is he's trying to dismantle this system, and he's trying to put. I'm not going to
This is
say
a
it.
claim
Hold on.
with
Wait,
zero
I'm sorry. The
evidence.
Democrats have set up
are
U.S. Treasury
making shit
payments
up.
to benefit them, despite the fact
no,
that this
I
is
will-
like
I
a
will- hold on, I'll
nonpartisan
explain-
thing that
Well, sure. I don't know, man, allegedly, but okay. All right. Let me just ask you.
allegedly
If you are
the
if you
Social
are the
Security
person-
payments are.
I don't believe
Really
that they are.
partisan.
I don't believe that it is like impartial. What it is they've been in power 60 of the last 20 years of the presidency, right? And they've had this House and the Congress or whatever for a lot of that time. And so over time, they've gotten their people spread throughout the bureaucracy, right? Like this is kind of a thing they've done. They've recruited, they've pushed people, they've done this, and they've pushed them throughout. And so what Trump is doing is saying, no more of that. And Republicans are going, yes, finally, the shoe's on the other foot. And y'all are going, oh, this is terrible. We hate this. And it's like, oh, well, now you know how we felt.
Okay,
Like
Gibbs,
y'all said
Gibbs,
this. I mean,
you are
but it's a
using-
real feeling, and it seems exactly like what y'all done.
your fee. It's great that you have your feelings. Okay, now let's engage with some facts here. Let's engage with some facts here. Okay, you have zero evidence for this nefarious, malicious intent that you seem to claim is present throughout the entire Democratic Party. Okay, as if they are a unified body acting against the will of the American people. You have no evidence to support that.
There's
claim,
a lot of evidence,
but you are perfectly comfortable to use that as a justification for Republicans and for Elon Musk to break the trust of Americans that voted for them and violate their privacy.
I'll give you an example. The Democratic Party is very pro taking advantage of migrants in order to have modern day slavery via lower wages, because that's the real reason.
And Republicans vote for those bills too.
Okay, so can I jump in here real quick? I got a little different.
What do you mean? Wait. What do you mean? What?
Which group? Which party doesn't want to deport the illegal aliens because, I quote, I don't remember which leader said this, said, hey, it's going to cost costs to go way up.
Both of them.
It's like, wow.
Well, that's not the only reason I'm not in favor of mass deportations, but like.
But that is the Democratic Party. They want
but I think we're providing. I don't understand. This is modern day slavery when these people are like, the whole entire reason they're going to the U.S. is because they get better working conditions than they would otherwise in like Mexico or their home country.
They can get a work permit.
Okay.
Like that's fine, and they get paid fairly like an American. Do you not want them to have?
Well, I would prefer that to happen, but like the people who cross fully undocumented don't get a work permit.
That's because you're not an evil, nefarious person within the system that's been forcing this to happen. That's because you're on the outside.
I don't know if Democrats are not in favor of giving people work permits. Biden gave like 800,000 Venezuelans work permits. Biden, I think, made it so if you claim asylum, you have like 90 days to get a work permit here. Like,
it was asylum.
Everything I've seen.
Take advantage of the asylum system.
You could already get a work permit prior to Biden and Trump. If you got approved for asylum, it was already.
I think Biden made it easier to get work permits, and I think he gave. I remember there being an article about Venezuelans.
He put on an app.
Well, I agree.
Get asylum as well, so yeah, I would probably see that. But Jose, so the Trump question you guys are asking, I want to jump in here with a little bit different everything. Trump ran with Musk, and if you watch the sales pitch, and I'm paraphrasing because Trump is a terrible communicator, but his sales pitch was, this guy made himself successful, went into failing businesses, turned them around extremely complex ones with rockets and fucking hybrid cars, and made them all billion-dollar ventures. Went into Twitter, bought it, and fired 80%, and now the thing's still running just the same. He wanted to hire him for a czar position. His authority comes from Trump. Elon Musk can't actually do anything. All he can do is bring recommendations to Trump. Trump said if there's any conflicts of interest, they'll remove Musk or whomever has those conflicts of interest from that particular area. It's all been addressed. What's her name? Pam Bondi? No, she's the... Never mind. Blonde, the Kayleigh McEnany 2.0. She's addressed this in the press conference yesterday. Went through all these points, and I just don't see that big of a deal with it. Like, if he campaigned, I'm going to hire Elon Musk to go through the books of the government and weed out all the bad shit, and people voted for him, then that's exactly what they voted for.
I don't know if... First of all, I don't know if I would consider all the conflicts of interest have been addressed. Like, I don't think has Elon divested from a single one of his companies that he supposedly made successful.
We don't listen. We don't need him to do that. Conflicts of interest. Okay.
They're really probably not going to let anything that like gives funding to like going into outer space. They're probably not going to let him touch that.
Has Elon Musk not already demonstrated his ability to affect U.S. legislation?
Yeah.
Well, that has George Soros.
Trump already said he said no to him on certain things as well. He's already said no to him.
That wasn't my question.
But also, I don't even...
That wasn't my question. That's not an answer to my question, Gibbs. That's a logical fallacy if you want to go down that road.
Sure, listen, but here's the reason why I'm asking that.
Okay, fine. It's bad when he does it. Now answer my question.
Okay, sure. I would say he's has equal influence as George Soros has. I mean, I don't...
No, I just think more.
Well, sure. My thing is I don't care if he's had more or less. Either way, like I would argue. Okay,
Wait, why don't
hold
you
on.
care more or less? More
I
should
will. I
bother
will.
you.
I will explain it. Right. Okay.
If Soros bothers you, Musk having more
Can
should
I
bother you
explain?
more.
This is easy, right? All right. I think Soros has had more, and I'll say it's just because he's been around longer, so he's been able to set up multiple things. I think now, at any given time, Elon right now might have more like power, direct power at the moment. I don't think he's as established and has as many mechanisms of power as Soros does. So they're powerful in different ways. Now, hold on. Let me
give
answer.
me the name of? Wait,
hold on. Let me finish. You just asked me a
Gibbs.
question. Let me finish. Right,
No,
answer your first one.
because this is a ridiculous comparison. Can you name
No,
one
it's-
bill that George Soros has affected in the way that Elon Musk did, the recent House bill that he fucking punished?
Sure. I mean, off the top of my head, no. But I'm sure that I can find one if you gave me like 5 minutes.
Okay, when you find one, let me know.
But hold on back. But let me finish what I'm saying though. Is I think there's different mechanisms of power. One, and so they're powerful in different ways. And my thing is, and like I said, and this is why when I gave that argument about not Nonfon being naive, just being young, is I have become very much accustomed at this point that I think we're getting fucked by everybody, right? So at least in this case, this guy is somewhat benefiting me, so I'd rather throw my lot in with the one that benefits me as opposed to the other corrupt guy that fucking is trying to fuck me all over. I'm not sitting here trying to act like it's all roses and fairy tales. Do I want Elon to have that much power? No. I've said several times that I have been concerned about how much power Doge has because, as like I said, I'm a small government guy on the domestic side. I want more free market, and I'm only pro big government on like more of the military and the intervention side. So when I'm looking at it like this, yeah, it's a concern that Elon has that much power. And it's just as concerning to me as Soros, but at least one of them's benefiting
Soros doesn't
me.
have the same level of power as Elon Musk does, and it's a joke to even compare them.
I'd say he has less. Okay, so real quick, Soros versus Elon Musk, why is it different? Musk stood next to Donald Trump on the stage, and Donald Trump said, I'm bringing this guy in to go line by line through the books.
Here's a list of projects. I'll post it in the...
Yeah, George
I don't-
Soros...
But yeah, okay,
though,
so
has
wait,
I
never
don't
been
disagree
mentioned.
with this point, but
What
I think, like, first of all, I think like a lot of Americans are anti-establishment, so they voted like in an anti-establishment person on anti-establishment rhetoric, saying we're going to bring in a billionaire who made other things, other companies successful to try to make the government efficient. I don't know if they thought that entailed doing what Musk is doing to like the treasury payment system and unilaterally trying to shut down executive agencies. I don't know how much Americans even understand the scope of the executive branch's authority, but I just don't think it's a great thing. I think Americans voted for some Americans certainly voted for Donald Trump because they thought he would do tariffs. I don't think that makes tariffs good.
Well,
Okay, Gibbs, what I specifically asked you for, because I don't think either of the things you posted so far.
I mean, I would say the second one at least was further.
Was any piece of legislation on the House floor that George Soros individually affected in the same way, to the same extent that Elon Musk affected this recent House
so
bill.
I could give you a great example, and it's real simple, and it's in the second article. He owns 40% of all radio stations.
Okay, this has nothing to do
Hold
with
on,
him.
let me finish. I know you don't think it does, but here's what I'm saying. Anytime he doesn't want a piece of legislation, listen, it's not a conspiracy. I mean, this is how businesses work in general. Is you tell them what you want them to do. So anytime he doesn't want legislation passed, he tells all 40% of these markets that he owns, hey, push this agenda. It's what I want. And guess what? They do it. I don't know why you even would debate that point. Like that's what businesses do.
More meaningful than Twitter. Elon Musk owning Twitter.
Yeah, which he just bought recently.
I don't know if it's quantifiable. So with George Soros,
Are you critical of Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter then?
No, I don't care. I also
Well,
then shut up about George Soros.
But you're not getting my point. My point is that they're the same. You're being bad faith here because what you're doing is they're the exact.
Hold on.
The same.
He's right.
Bad.
You
like one because of your bias.
That's exactly what I told you, straight up. I don't know what you're arguing about. Like I literally said
that.
Well, no, it's actually intelligent. At least I'm honest.
I'm saying they're both. That's bad.
I'm the only principled one because I'm sitting here willing to admit that I'm always looking out for myself. Like I don't know why. you're back.
You don't
like,
think George
Wait,
Soros?
but I'm saying the facts of the world, the facts of reality clash with your position that you only look out for yourself. Elon Musk is by definition violating your rights of privacy as a United States citizen. He isn't looking out for you, so how could you look out for yourself by being biased towards him?
You don't. Okay.
so what? Facebook's doing the same
Hold on.
thing. So is Instagram.
Hold
So is Twitter.
on.
I-
Equal fallacy. Look it up.
I can help. What
It's
Gibbs
not.
is saying is correct. You don't think George Soros, the number one donor for the single donor for the Democratic Party, can only make one phone call and kill any bill? He
I don't.
absolutely
No.
can.
No, I don't.
Absolutely can. I am
Let's see
your
him
number
do it.
one funder.
Let's see him do it. Elon Musk did it.
Okay,
Let's see him do it.
But in terms of like you guys are trying to quantify like one specific thing, I can give you things that we actually know George Soros is doing on the state
No,
and local
you can
level.
give me what I asked for, or it's an irrelevant comparison.
It's not.
That's not how it works, though.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
Just
I mean,
because
yeah,
it's not the
it's not a
exact
point you
same
can win on, so I
action.
understand why you don't want it to work that
No,
way.
George
okay.
Soros does not have the power of
Okay,
Elon
do you
Musk
think the Koch,
in a lot of ways.
Do you think the Koch brothers, whenever they, all right, for all the senators and
All of them.
Oh boy.
Hold on.
Get out. All the stars are
Let's
here.
just do this. I mean, if you want to have this argument, let's have the argument. Like,
Koch brothers are a
hold
better
on.
comparison.
So yeah, let's use the Koch brothers then. Fine, right? The Koch brothers have a bunch of Republicans that they have basically on their payroll. They fund all of their campaigns. They get them elected. They keep funding them while they're there. They do lobbies for them. Okay, you telling me that if they call up, I don't know, I'm just gonna make up a number, the 20% of the Republicans that they control say, do not get this bill passed, that those senators are gonna go and do what they say. Just like when the NRA calls up one of their guys and says, hey, we've donated to you for 20 fucking years and paid you millions a year. If you don't do this, we're funding your competitor. Do you think that senator or that House of Representatives person is going to back the NRA bill? Yes,
depends.
absolutely. We see
Depends.
it all. We see it all. No.
What did Donald Trump say about them? Does he like the senator?
True. I don't know. Did Elon Musk say he was going to fund the primary of their competitor?
Is Elon Musk going to be on the ground for the
Soros
campaign?
has done that already, though. Like,
Okay.
I don't know. They're exactly the same.
So you
It's
notice
just at
how
least
you
this one's
can't
working
address
for
what
me.
I just said. You have
I
to
did.
pivot
You're
back to Soros.
not addressing any of what I'm saying. The Koch brothers have done it. Soros has done it.
No,
These
I
are
did
all
address it.
billionaires.
So my implicit answer there was that
Both are bad.
I don't think that
I don't know
kind
what
of
you-
funding. I don't think that kind of funding affects the electability of Republican candidates in the way that you think it does. I think that Donald Trump's opinion, because of the way he's sucked the entire Republican Party down a fucking vortex, has way more to do with the electability or re-electability of a given candidate than any given donor. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying his opinion outweighs any monetary advantage. And now, like Nonfon pointed out,
Elon only
with his
has that
buddy
because
Elon
he is
Musk,
the monetary-
he can fund anybody he needs to.
Okay, hold on.
I don't think Elon has that much influence over Trump.
I also, again, I just don't. Like, George Soros is never going into the treasury and taking over fucking the treasury payment
Trump-
system and shutting down
tried.
USAID
He tried.
things.
already told him no
Ain't
for
shit.
multiple things. Like, I mean, pointed them out. Social Security, Medicare, things that he brought up to cut funding there. He's already told them no. All Elon can do, he's in a
Wait, told him no to what? Told him no to cutting Social Security benefits? Yeah, I would
He's
imagine
in
that.
Exactly. So all Elon can do.
But they
he's
still
in a
have
bizarre
control.
position.
Actually, I don't know if they still have. I think they came to an agreement, but they still entered like the Treasury building and like we're taking over the computers. Like
The
George Soros has
Treasury,
never.
yes. The Treasury, yeah, you're right. George Soros has never done that.
Which
Soros
is a
pumps hundreds of millions of dollars into elections every cycle and elects people more on a local level. He does a different tactic where he elects like state DAs, state attorneys, DAs, mayors of different cities, and pushes like Chesa Boudin, Larry Krasner, Kim Fox, all these particular people you keep hearing coming up that are like very, very soft on crime. So I would say he has different tactics, but they both have a ton of power. Like, I don't know why we're measuring dicks to see who has slightly more.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no, it's
that's
not
a dumb
about
argument.
slightly. It's not about slightly. George Soros never had an office like catty corner to the fucking White House. It's that the comparison is on its
He
face.
just
idiotic.
got a medal, a presidential medal, like a
Oh
couple
my
weeks
god,
ago.
I repeat,
Oh,
George Soros
damn.
never had an office catty corner to the fucking White House. It's not the same thing. It's not
Yeah,
even
because
in
he
the
doesn't
same
need it. He's got a. He looks
I don't know.
universal.
George Soros is never doing these like
This is
legally
Marvel and
questionable
DC,
things.
bro. We are departing dimensions here. It's not even comparable.
Yeah, I would say that one's done it over a course of several, like 40 years, 50 years. One's done it for 4.
Okay, you can say
So
that,
real.
but you can't defend. You can't support the claim. We can point to something he did fucking yesterday that he bragged
because it's
about.
more in the news. We can look up all. I just gave you a list of stuff he's funded and backed. And
That's
look,
great.
All of
he's
that
the
is
biggest
like-
donor. He's the biggest donor for the Democrat Party. What? Okay,
It doesn't prove what you're saying.
Let me ask you a question. It's real simple. Do you think that if his agenda wasn't being pushed by the Democratic Party, he would still be funding them?
Do you think that if the Democratic Party followed his agenda, he's incentivized to donate to them?
Yes, there is both.
Independent of his
There's
input?
both.
You're right.
You think
Yeah.
if they just coincided with his agenda, he
Yeah,
would feel
absolutely, they're
incentivized
both.
upon them? Oh, wow. So how can you so confidently say that it's the chicken and not the egg?
Because it's both the chicken and the egg,
It's
Papa.
both. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so then why is he
absolutely
such a malicious actor then?
I don't think he's malicious.
Well, I'm not talking to you.
I think they're both equally corrupt.
Get out of here. Go smoke, Tyler.
It's
both
equally
equally
corrupt to like fund primaries and state DAs as it is to create to create a
Alright,
position in government for someone who hasn't
Okay,
divested from their agencies for to then go in to try to unilaterally shut down executive agencies and freeze funding for all these like
The only difference is the chosen system. Soros wants to be doing it behind the scenes where he has plausible deniability.
No.
Elon doesn't give a shit. There's no difference to me fundamentally, and the big difference is one is my values at least align with money. The money aligns with mine. So it's like y'all are going, oh, this one's terrible, the other one's meh, and I'm going, bro, it's the exact same thing. At least this one's got my back money wise. I don't know why that's even a controversial topic.
Well, because I'm against oligarchical corruption. If what you're saying about George Soros if what you're saying is all true, I would be as mad, if not more, depending on the circumstance, as I am with Elon Musk. The problem is, I have way more direct evidence to point to Elon Musk's like infiltration into the inner workings of the government without virtue of an election. And you can gesture to things that George Soros has funded that coincide with his personal interests and positions, but you are imposing a link between like some malicious intent to fuck the American people by the Democratic Party and him coercing them into doing that. That's the part that I'm taking issue with. Whereas I can point to like
I'll give you an example right now. I got one. Hungary just passed a law directly in opposition called the Stop Soros Law, because what he's funded is so many different things, like specifically illegal immigration. This is because this is what he's been doing worldwide.
this
They
was proposed
specifically
by
named him-
Senator Nick Fuentes.
In
Yeah, like I don't know.
I mean,
I have
dismissing
to
this
read
from-
more into it, but I'm not going to trust most of the things Viktor Orban says and passes. I don't know. I don't know if
Most of those
Orban is
illegal
the.
immigrants are actually refugees that they're relocating. That's the actual role of those NGOs.
Bro, babe.
Yeah. By the way, I have to go relatively soon. Like I don't know how much.
Wrap it up then.
Okay.
Let's give closings here. Go ahead. You go ahead and start it off. Fine.
Thought not.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, geez, we talked about Nonfon or non-fan or non-fron. It gets confused a lot. We talked about a lot of stuff. Okay, I think we started. I think basically, here's what I'll say. I think basically everything Trump is doing, foreign policy-wise, is diminishing the U.S.'s soft power. So tariffing our allies rather than trying to cooperate with them against China, trying to take over the Gaza Strip without, instead of trying to at least, although to be fair, as press secretary clear things up a little bit. Tyler mentioned, having like Arab countries invest in the Gaza Strip or try to build towards a two-state solution that the Arab states would be proud with or happy with and willing to work with the U.S. and Israel in the future. I think most of the things that him and Elon are doing are gearing up to, are expanding the authority of the executive branch and possibly gearing up to eventually just ignore a court order, trying to unilaterally change the definition of the 14th Amendment, trying to fire inspector generals without the notification that Congress, at least legally questionable to say the least, Congress wants. doing things like, free that OBM spending freeze, or then revoking the memo, but not necessarily the policy behind it, which the judge said was just an attempt to avoid judicial review. We'll see where all these things end up. Oh, and the Elon Musk is, his team doing legally disputable things with USAID and with the Treasury Department's, payment processing computers or whatever. I think all those things are trying to expand the authority of the executive branch and possibly gearing up to just ignore the order of a court, at which point we, if the Supreme Court ends up backing down after that, we're living in Hungary, we're living in a partially free state, no longer like a liberal democracy, flawed democracy state. I think it's like how Freedom House maps it. I think all those things are bad. If you like what I have to say, or you hate me, go to Nonfon on YouTube, Nonfon. I stream, and there's a lot of debates up there, some of them with Gibbs and Tyler in them, and JC, I think, is in a few. And Twitch, Nonfon420, Kick Nonfon420. Go check me out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. JC.
Yeah. So, as the American imperialist, I'm totally fine with the exercising of American hard power to promote liberal Western values, if it's done with care and precision and intentionality. And Donald Trump is not doing that. So he's going to just kind of like say whatever. He's going to point at random territory, throw darts at a territory on a map and say, I'm going to say I want that on Twitter today. He's going to blunder us closer and closer to collapse and probably eventual destruction. I'm the big JC. I don't stream, but I'm supposed to. And I play League of Legends when I do stream.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Tyler.
All right, so I got one point that we never really got to that I kind of wanted to get out, that this whole Gaza thing that was kind of supposed to be the main subject could also be a bluff. It could be Trump playing bad cop. So what's going on with the Israel negotiations for hostages is it's going to go in phases. And I think the first phase, they got between like 20 and 40 hostages and bodies secured for release. But it's not, I think it's like a third of what they have. So, and they're doing a small trickle. So they're going to have to go back to the table eventually. And what this does is allow Israel to not have to make concessions because they're like, look, our hands are tied. The United States said X, Y, and Z, and they're going to do it. So Hamas can't stay because Trump's going to come in here after. So I think that that's still a possibility if it's a bluff, and even if it's not a bluff, that's also maybe why they announced it the way they did, was to give Israel better leverage in the negotiations coming up. That all being said, I believe in U.S. or Americans having the best system. I believe in our liberal democracy, and I think that the best way to do it is spread this. Afghanistan, it was 42 million people. There's less than 2 million people here. It's a fraction of the size. It's completely surrounded with one of our best allies in the world. It's not going to be the same threat. We're not going to see the same death. It's going to be similar to toward the end of Afghanistan, where we saw life expectancy goes through the roof. We saw women's education skyrocket to a point where it hasn't been since like the 60s, before Russia went in there and messed their government up the first time. We saw all sorts of great shit for the population when that happened. So I really want that moving forward. Again, read why nations fail. We need to go in there. We need to set up these economic inclusive institutions and foster them over a generation or two, so that they are the generation that we leave to take over the country has only known what we have put in place for them and moves forward with liberal democracy as well, while floating our pockets with all the investments we made into it. If you want to see Wednesday, I'll be on this channel. We're going to be doing a one-on-one debate with somebody that is against this Gaza policy. He and I are going to be doing it for competitive purposes, so you can come in and vote. Plus, if you want to sub to my OnlyFans, I do cake sitting and feet videos. Otherwise, go ahead, drop a sub to everybody on here. We do this once a week, and the chemistry is getting better and better every week. Pretty soon, we're all going to get together and smoke marijuana and go to cookout and fun stuff.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. Well, on that note, I'm going to send y'all on over to Ian tonight, I think, and you also going to go say hi. We got to go pass it around to the homies. Bye, wave goodbye, everybody. Bye. It's been a good show. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Bye. If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.